Howdy, folks. Welcome to Redneck Gone Green. I'm David Cobb. I am the redneck, and you bet I've gone green, and I'm trying to convince you to do it too, right? And remember, y'all, when I say going green, I mean both green as in ecology, understanding of the need to connect to the fact that all life is interconnected, but I also mean green party. I mean, the need to break from the corporate duopoly of the two political parties and build from the bottom up a genuine mass movement people's party. And I make no bones about it. I'm all about building a true red-green alliance. I am a redneck, to be sure, but see how clever I am? The Redneck Gone Green, it works on so many different levels. And I always have to remind you, please subscribe, and comment. The reality is that this movement is being suppressed by the algorithms, but we are still growing an audience, and I'm so grateful to you that we've got thousands of people who are now subscribed to the Substack. So we do a weekly writing on Substack. You can catch us on YouTube or Rumble or Facebook as well. So thank you so much for what you're doing to continue to build a place where we can talk to each other without the corporate filter. This is a place with explicitly non-corporately filtered news, information, analysis, and conversation. And remember, this is all about convening a space. We go beyond the ain't it awful, right? This is what is to be done. And that's a hat tip to Vlad, a very sincere what is to be done. And it is with that in mind that I'm very excited to share who our guest is today. Carsie Blanton is a kick-ass revolutionary. She is an amazing artist, singer-songwriter of the best order. And I got to say, I see she's on. I just want to say real quick in front of everybody, I still remember at the very beginning of the pandemic, Ruthie, who many of y'all know, my partner, she came to me. She was boo-hooing, crying her eyes out. And she said, you have to listen to this. And she played Fishing with You, which Carsie had written at the very beginning of the pandemic when we lost John Prine. And y'all, by the end of that song, I was boo-hooing too. And then I found out that she's a straight up revolutionary, and I've been fanboying ever since. So with that, Carsie Blanton, welcome to Redneck Gone Green.
Oh, thank you, David. I'm so happy to be here. Good to see you.
It's good to see you again. And I got to say, I've seen you multiple times because I've been kind of following you around. Anytime you get up to Northern California, I try to make it a point. Ruthie and I make it a point to go and see you.
Well, I appreciate it.
And there's so much to say, but I want to start by acknowledging that you're one of the rare artists from the stage who will consistently describe yourself as a revolutionary. And I want to engage that with you to see so what inspires you to do that? And what's your reaction been from the stage whenever you do that?
Gosh, what a wonderful question. I feel very seen. Yeah, I've sort of been playing with my live show, at least since COVID, because I think like a lot of people, I've gotten pushed further and further left, at least since like the second Obama term. And so my music has been political, but you can, if you listen through my records, you can hear my perspective shifting over the years. So in the last few years, I've really been experimenting with how can I authentically represent my politics, which are revolutionary, and still put on what feels like a good show and a show that brings people together. Even if I doubt I have any true Republicans in the audience or like right wingers, but I know I have a lot of like liberal Democrats. And I myself used to be a liberal Democrat. So I'm trying to create a show that feels accessible and inspiring for everybody in the crowd, but also not have to hide my own assessment of the political situation, which is that the party politics are pretty much, they've jumped the shark and there's not a lot we can do from within the Democratic Party anymore. And so I am interested in a revolution in this country, and I think it would be overall a very positive thing for the whole world. So I try to represent that from the stage, and I try to do it with humor and with a lot of hope so that it doesn't feel quite so scary for people.
And you do it so well. And I hope it doesn't, I mean it like really sincerely, but when I describe you, I can't help but to say, I said like, so she's cute as a button and a revolutionary. It's like, oh my God. And I still remember the show where you and your band had just had your equipment stolen down in the San Francisco Bay Area, maybe Oakland or something.
Yep.
And then the way you talk about it and the ability to find compassion and humor even in that, I was like
Aww.
y'all rose above it. Like, because I remember even like making a snarky comment, and one of your bandmates said, "No, we're not like that." And you're better than I am.
Oh, I appreciate that very much. Yeah. We really, within the band, especially, like we're very, very close as a band. My best friends are my bandmates, and we talk a lot about politics in the van and on stage. And we also talk a lot about how to structure our business, and I really try to pay attention to everybody being paid well. And so we have like a very socialist band culture, and it really does come in handy sometimes, like when you're having a really hard time on the road, just to be able to like find some kindness in your hearts for each other and for whoever just stole all your shit out of your van.
Right?
Yeah.
And so like there's so much to say, but I do want to back up one moment, because you talked about your trajectory, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that like I know about you, and I want our audience to get to know about you, is your childhood and the kind of like what you had experienced, right? Because I
Yeah.
think about the lyrics to American Kid, right?
Mhm.
And I can't help but to believe that there might be something autobiographical in those lyrics.
For sure. Well, my dad is a redneck gone green as well. So I was raised in Appalachia in Central Virginia. And my dad comes from like came by it honest, a true redneck family. It goes back very far in that part of the world. And, taught me how to hunt and fish, and I shot shotguns and stuff growing up. Which I think surprises people, because I think if you're on the liberal Democrat side of my crowd, people see me as sort of like this just like kind of classic liberal white girl, but I wasn't that growing up, and I'm still not that now. um,
Right.
so I kind of come from this Appalachian culture of working class people, and my family uh, especially my dad, had been very radical when he was younger, and then but I was raised pretty classic liberal Democrat household, and also it was the 90s, and like it was just like that. There wasn't, at least where I was in the world, it didn't seem like there was a very strong culture of radical left
It
people.
wasn't out in the countryside. Like
Not in the
they were.
countryside. Yeah, exactly. So I grew up in a pretty liberal household, and we would like write. I was homeschooled also, so we talked about politics a lot in my household. But we would like write letters to senators and stuff as homework. And I worked on the Obama campaign. My little brother did as well. He was a teenager at the time. We both canvassed for Obama, and then my brother went off to college. He went to Antioch,
Of
and
course.
started sending me books. He's like, you might like this. Started sending me stuff. He's young. He's 8 years younger than me, but he was probably 2-3 years ahead of me on the trajectory to the left. So he started sending me books. We started having conversations, and then it was like during Obama's second term for me is when I started to feel my own paradigm shift, because I was reading, like David Harvey and Mark Fisher, Capitalist Realism, stuff like that, and I was like, I thought the long arc of history was going to bend toward justice, But here we are with this guy in office who seems so great, and like our imperialist warmongering has not stopped, and our, you know, we're still our you know, prison industrial complex still going strong, and we're still like nabbing all these people at the border and sending them back to their countries that we just destroyed in a coup for God knows what reason. So I'm like, something doesn't feel right. And we couldn't even get health care. So I'm like starting to feel a little weird, like around probably 2013 or 14. I started to feel like maybe the thing that I think is going on is not exactly what's going on. And then when during the Trump campaign and when Trump got elected, I remember I had just read some quote, and I can't remember. I'm really bad at quoting theory. I read a lot of it, but I always forget who said everything. It was about how fascism is the last line of defense when capitalism is in crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And so when capitalism is in crisis, you get a movement toward the left and you get a movement toward fascism, and they both happen at the same time. And in like 2016, I was like, this is like, I just read this, and this is very clearly happening right in front of my eyes. And so that was very radicalizing, as I think it was for a lot of people. So that's when I think that also for me, when I was a Democrat, my understanding of politics as patterns and history and sort of the symbolism of politics was very shallow. Like I was more like, rah, rah, go Democrats. Like that was my sports team. And as I started reading theory, and also as the world started feeling more and more fucked up, I felt like I had a deeper, like emotional understanding of what politics really are, which is like these vast movements of people through history, and they all affect each other, and they're all affected by what came before, right? And once I started to have a grasp on that, it was like it entered the other part of my brain, which is the songwriting part. And I would dream about politics. Like once you can dream about something, you can write a song about it. I always feel like. So that's when I really started writing about my different understanding, my revolutionary politics, was when it became something I could write about well. Like I wasn't interested in writing about vote Hillary or whatever, you know?
Right.
But I was interested in writing about the idea of revolution and the idea of liberation. Those are very beautiful ideas.
And I really appreciate it too, because like the language that I'm accustomed to, what you were talking about is your move, and that is genuinely consciousness, right? Coming to understand how the systems actually work, right? Yeah. And for me, you know, as you might be able to tell from my gray whiskers, right? I got a couple of years on you, but like to me, like I still remember, and I'll tell this story real quick because I feel like the audience needs to hear us being humble and being willing to own it, because you'll see what I mean. Because I still remember going, you know, I worked in construction for a couple of years. Then I went to junior college, and then I finally got to the University of Houston, a real university, right? Mm-hmm. And I rode a Harley Davidson motor. I was really cool, Carsie. I rode a Harley Davidson. I had long hair and all. And I was a little bit older than most of the other kids, right? But what I remember is seeing a big sign that said, "End apartheid now." And I was like, oh, I know what apartheid is. That sucks. I'd like to help end it. But here's the thing, Carsie, underneath that big sign, there was a table and a fella behind the table. An activist. I had heard about this. I had never actually seen somebody who did that, right? And I went up and I started talking to this fella. And within 3 to 5 minutes, I'm in an argument, not yelling at each other, but what I now understand is an actual political discourse and an argument, because he had some confusing thing about how I was inadvertently supporting apartheid because my tuition money was going to the Board of Regents who were investing in corporations doing business in South Africa. And that was a little bit confusing. But what pissed me off is that fella had the audacity to say that the U.S. government supported apartheid. And I was like, man, where'd you go to school? Like, this is America. Like, we're the good guys. We're
the good guys. That's our whole brand.
And Carsie, I'll never forget that fella. He didn't ridicule me. He didn't mock me. He didn't make fun of me. But he did say, looky here, man. Like, I got all this material on the table, but I don't think anything on this table is going to convince you. But I'll make you a deal. The MD Anderson Library is really 100 yards away. And if you'll go read either U.S. News and World Report or Time or Newsweek or any of those, those cover stories, and you tell me what you want me to read, and I will, and then we can have another conversation. Is that fair?
Mm.
And of course, I tell that story on myself because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
But more importantly, I tell that story to lift up that fella who took me where I was and started a trajectory for me, right?
Yeah.
And so this is in the early 80s. From there, I just fell into the Jesse Jackson for president in 84 and 88, Jerry Brown in 92. And I like to say, I learned a lot in those campaigns, right? I learned as a white person how to put myself genuinely under the leadership of people of color. I learned about building coalitions between environmentalists and labor unions and women's issues. I learned about Palestine for the first time in my life. But
you
here's
didn't just
something
learn
else.
about it this week like everybody else?
Let's make sure we circle back and talk about that, lady. But here's the other thing I learned. The Democratic Party's presidential primary is where genuine progressive politics goes to die, because all the enthusiasm, all the energy, all the excitement that gets generated by plain talking and about movement building dissipates, and we're basically told, okay, now get back to the back of the bus, you progressives.
Yep.
The adults are in
right.
charge.
Yep.
And so I like to say, for me, Bill Clinton turned me into a green.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And the thing about Obama is Obama is a case study. We ought to look at it. See, as a white person, I talked to many of my comrades who were black and brown, and I said, I get it. I can understand intellectually why somebody who looks like you getting into the White House makes you feel some kind of way.
Yep.
But you know what, y'all? I've had people who look like me and have my gender in that office my whole life, and they ain't done nothing but fuck me.
Yeah.
Like I just can't, like I can't really get behind like that, like, oh, checking some kind of box, right?
I know. I wish it wasn't true, but David, I'm with you.
And so it is with that I want to say, first and foremost, folks, y'all are listening and watching Redneck Gone Green. I'm your host, David Cobb. We're talking to Carsie Blanton, a singer, a songwriter, a revolutionary, and just an all-around awesome human being. And I want to ask you to please like, subscribe, and comment. And I also want to give you an opportunity, Carsie, to circle back. You talked about the trajectory, right, of where you were at, but your current politics, you are like, maybe from the stage you might moderate it a little bit, but like to make it like, again, give people a good show. But like, you're a straight up revolutionary. You don't like your politics have definitely gone all the way.
Yep, it happened. I mean, if it hadn't been such a depressing few years here, they might have kept me just on the left edge of being a Democrat, but I fell right off like sometime mid-pandemic around the George Floyd protests. So I'm a socialist and a revolutionary socialist.
And so I want to give you a chance, actually, because before we went live, we talked a little bit about the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and I want to give you an opportunity to say what you're doing there with them and what y'all are cooking up.
Yeah, so Party for Socialism and Liberation, PSL, has been around for about 20 years now, but it's grown pretty significantly in this last couple years here. And I joined in Philly. There's, I think, about 100 regional branches now. So there's a lot of different branches of the party, and there's national leadership as well. And they are a political party. And they are running a presidential candidate who I think is fucking awesome. But they also do a lot of on the ground organizing. So I got involved in Philly and I was helping them raise money. I helped a little bit with some protests there in like 2021, and with some food delivery. They did a lot of pandemic food delivery. Really, really huge program in Philly. I think it was like them and the Catholic Church were delivering the most food during COVID. So they do a lot of really good work, PSL, on the ground to help people. And I actually joined because I was in therapy in the pandemic and was just super depressed. And my therapist was like, the only remedy for this is to get involved and be doing on the ground work. So nice. So yeah, I joined PSL. They have a wonderful educational component to their work. They do a lot of really, really good hands-on conversational education about not just political theory like Marx, etc., but also all the different conflicts happening in the world, how they got to where they are, what the power dynamics are, what the economic constraints are. So it kind of gives you a primer when you join that party in world politics, which I found really useful. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now, and I'm involved a little bit more as well in organizing artists and musicians now.
So I'm
But
going to
I'm not
get to the artists
affiliated.
and musicians part, but
Yeah.
I really like, and we talked about this, like the quality. I want to, again, I'm a Green Party person, but I work with PSL folks all the time. In fact, Carsie, I'll let you know, ask Eugene Puryear. I helped to facilitate Eugene getting the cross nomination for the DC State of Green Party and PSL when he ran, right?
That's
so
awesome. Yeah.
I believe in the Red-Green Alliance and do it all the time. And I'm going to ask Jackrabbit to actually play this clip because I want y'all to see who the PSL, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, who they're actually running for president. Jack, hit that clip.
The newest data suggests the U.S. economy is slowing down.
The role reversal is setting off ripple effects as states implement abortion bans.
Another train derailed outside Detroit today.
The number of Americans living without homes, in shelters, or on the streets continues to rise at an alarming rate.
Does it ever feel like the political system is working against us? Like regardless of who we vote for, the outcome is always the same? We're told this country is a democracy, but more and more it feels like a corporate regime. No matter which party is in power, only the rich ever come up on top. Today, the richest 1% or more wealth than the bottom 90% of Americans combined.
On top of that, heat waves, floods, and hurricanes are becoming a regular occurrence. Artificial intelligence is threatening to replace millions of jobs, and the threat of World War III is more serious than ever. Humanity is facing nothing short of an existential crisis, and what do the two parties offer us? Culture wars meant to divide us, and breadcrumbs disguised as solutions that come nowhere near meeting the scale of the problem.
Let's just say what we all know deep inside. Career politicians and real estate moguls are never going to save us. Corporate America has two parties. Shouldn't the working class have at least one? I am Claudia de la Cruz.
And I'm Karina Garcia.
And we're running for the President and Vice President of the United States on the ticket of the Party for Socialism and Liberation.
We're not career politicians, and we don't have billionaire friends. We're educators, community organizers, and mothers.
You don't need to tell us that the working class makes this country run. I'm from the South Bronx, and we know what hard work looks like.
I know this country wouldn't last a day without the working class. So isn't it about time that we take charge?
This campaign is for all of us living paycheck to paycheck. We're working multiple jobs. For all of us who are sick of watching the rich get richer while we can't even pay our rent.
We don't just want to tax the billionaires. We want them out of power entirely. We need to seize big pharma, seize big tech, seize the big banks instead of letting them run our government. We need an economy that puts the people before profit. An economy built to generate prosperity for everyone, not just a handful of billionaires.
This campaign is not a one-time thing. We're running to build a political organization that finally gives voice to the working people of this country. It's time to stop going around in circles while the elites change places every 4 years. We think this country deserves a better option, a socialist option.
Woo!
There it is. And look at here. I got to tell you right now, Carsie, I guarantee you that I'm going to get clobbered by some of my Green Party friends who are going to say, why are you putting somebody else up there? I'm going to get clobbered by some of my progressive Democrats friends to say, oh my God, don't you know how bad Trump is? And I'm with you on this one. It's like, we need to build a socialist movement. And the way that you do that is to articulate it and win people over.
You have to change the culture.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like and the phrase I use all the time, break it down without dumbing it down. And I think that talking plainly and simply, like I can tell you this, Carsie, I'm not bullshitting you. I can go into any pool hall or bowling alley where white people are and have conversations that start basically with, man, don't you think the boss man's got his boot on our neck?
Yeah, you can say most of what was in that campaign video and it would go over pretty well.
Go over real well, right?
I think so too.
And so to me, like that kind of conversation is super powerful. And I do want to make sure to, because you talked about, so you do electoral politics, right? Authentically as a revolutionary, but I also love the art and revolution part. Because, I love the phrase Tony Compadre said, the role of the artist is to make revolution irresistible, right?
Yes.
And that's a beautiful saying. But one thing I know as an organizer and as a self-professed revolutionary, and that is there has never been a social movement that did not have art and culture interspersed. And like it's the same fucking thing. Because this is what I say. One of the ways you actually have a movement as opposed to just pedantic intellectualizing is that the principles and values of the movement begin to reflect in poems and in song lyrics and in sculpture and in plays and in visual arts, right? Like that's how you know that you actually have a movement.
Because you have to make it feel real. You can't just explain it. That's not good enough. It has to feel possible. Yeah, I'm totally with you. Yeah. And I think, I'm about to go to Ireland for the second time this year. I go over there as much as I possibly can. And part of the reason is it's very like nourishing and relaxing to be in a place where there is a real left, like where they have a political left, they have a little bit of political power. You can be in a pub in Ireland and say, I'm a socialist, and people, oh yeah, my uncle's a socialist. It's not totally a bizarre and weird othering thing to say the way it is here. And I think that, I think sort of the first step is to create a cultural space for the left to exist in this country. And part of that is running people for president, because that's the language that everybody understands. Like that's the kind of politics that America understands. Most Americans do not understand that like doing mutual aid on your block is also politics, but they understand when you're running for president and you're saying something and that's a platform. So I think part of it is just making it explicable. Like there is this whole other set of ideas. It's separate from Democrats and Republicans. And hey, a lot of us think it's true. And hey, I'm writing a song about it and she's running for president about it. And you can come to our protests and you come to our community garden. You know what I mean? It's like creating a culture that people can feel comfortable in, where you can be on the left and you can have your leftist ideas and you can just exist. Nobody has to come beat down your door and scream in your face or whatever.
And the other thing is can we make things pretty and beautiful as well as leftists, right?
I would love that.
Can we eat really tasty food and tell good jokes, and play grab ass? Like this is the thing. I want to have fun, right? And Emma Goldman's exhortation rings in my ear, right?
Yeah. If I can't dance, I don't want to be part of your revolution.
And
I always like to say, like, I'm here to bring the party to the Socialist Party. So
right on. And I also love this idea of like mutual aid is actually part of politics, right?
Yeah.
And I really want to underscore, like, I do engage in electoral politics, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not an electoral fetishist.
Yeah.
I really, really want to underscore that, like, because I tell people this: if you want systemic transformational change and all you ever do is go and vote every 2 or 4 years, you're wasting your time.
You're not going to get it. Yeah.
Right? But there's a corollary, Carsie.
Mm-hmm.
If you say you want systemic transformational change and during election cycles, you vote for corporatist, imperialist, capitalist, you're wasting an opportunity, right? Like, so to me, it's not an either or thing. It's got to be a both and.
Yeah. I also think, and I'm surrounded by, people that still believe in the Democratic Party all the time. And I don't poo-poo it. I don't think you're stupid or it'll never work or whatever. I mean, I do think it'll never work. I don't think it's stupid. I get the concept intellectually. And my problem with it is that I think that video illustrated beautifully that we are in a time of crisis. We are facing a lot of existential crises, not just in America, but as a species. And one of our crises in this country is the rise of fascism. And I think that the Democrats have demonstrated for us really clearly that they are not up to those challenges. So it's not about, I don't like Biden or whatever. Like, that's so far beside the point. It's that the existing parties have shown us, they've demonstrated many times that they are not available for the task at hand. So we literally have to try with something else. Like, I've sort of gotten to the point where I'm like, listen, I'm not saying vote for Biden, don't vote for Biden. I'm saying there is no universe in which, even if everyone votes Democratic in every election, in which we're going to survive the next century. It's literally just not enough.
Right.
So I think a lot of people feel that, but they don't feel that there's a reasonable alternative.
I think that's right. And I love the way you do it in such a non-dogmatic, non-sectarian way, right? Which I aspire to. And I'll tell you straight up, Carsie, like if yelling at people, if grabbing them by the shoulders and shaking them vigorously and saying, wake up, would work, like I would do that. I will confess that like that is oftentimes what I want to do.
That comes easily to you.
It comes easily, right? Carsie, I ain't never found it to work.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. I look back on the people like that fella at the in the anti-apartheid movement back in the 80s at the University of Houston. And I think about all the steps along the way where I had epiphanies or consciousness. It was never because somebody was yelling at me or telling me I was stupid or that I just didn't get it. Like I never had learning opportunity. Like those were never learning. And Ruthie, who has taught me watch this phrase, the zone of proximal learning.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I know,
I don't
right?
know that one.
Well, it's just like you learn in cycles, right? And so there is the center circle where like you already know everything, right? Like, which is to say you're never challenged, right?
Yeah.
So you never learn anything new if you stay there.
Yeah.
The next concentric circle is where the zone of proximal development. Ruthie's in the chat here, lovingly correcting me.
Nice.
I want to lift her up here. But the point is, in the zone of proximal development, there's the next one where you get challenged, right? But the next big one out is a panic zone where you're just so overwhelmed that nothing makes sense. You don't learn there either.
Okay.
You only learn when you are in that place of the next thing where you can go back and forth. Like, okay, I learned something and then you come back. And I really do aspire. I see Ruthie do it all the time as a theater artist with when she's teaching other people the theater arts or when I've seen her do political education, she does it so naturally. Well, how about this? And it's always about asking a question and letting people have those moments, right?
Yeah. Questions and also jokes I find to be really helpful. If you can make somebody laugh, even when they don't agree with you, when you're laughing, you're very vulnerable to new information, I've found. So if you can tell a joke, like a political joke, and get everybody in the room to laugh, I swear to you, that's the time I feel I've been the most effective in changing people's minds. If I've had a really good show and everyone leaves laughing, like I have a joke that I do sometimes about how I'm wanted by the FBI. So I'll do my revolutionary stuff and I just, be good to the people, take care of each other. That's the whole theme of the show. And then I'll make a joke like, oh, if Dave's here, he's my assigned FBI agent. Hi, Dave. Sorry, his name's Dave. I tested a few names. Dave was the best one. Anyway, but then I make that joke. Everybody laughs. And I could just tell some people are like, is she really wanted by the FBI? And I'm like, I don't know, probably. And it's like something about that just gives them a little nudge. Like, wait. What does the FBI do? I could just picture some people are looking up like, wait, was MLK actually killed by the FBI? Like, it's just the joke is gives you an opportunity to plant a little seed of new information.
Well, speaking of that approach, and from the stage, I'm going to ask Jack to tee up the After the Revolution, because you've got a new song out, and lady, you kind of go viral whenever you release new things. I mean, you're definitely tapping into folk, right? At least in my circles. And this last one, though, well, it's pretty darn explicit. Like, let's just you're not very subtle in this one.
I know subtlety's never been my strong suit.
So, Jack, if you're ready, brother, let's hear that one from Carsie Blanton.
Well, the world is small, and they fucked it all long before we came around. And we work all day, try to catch a break, but it's nowhere to be found. it's hard to love like you won't give up when the whole thing's coming down. But after the revolution, we'll have a better life. You'll be a better husband, I'll be a better wife. We'll have a tribulation, we'll take a holiday. It won't always be this way. Oops.
Apologize for that. And I want to say, y'all go to carsieblanton.com and download that music and get on that lady's Patreon, because I heard something from you from the stage that I could not believe. Or maybe it was one of your, because Ruthie and I, we are, we're Patreon.
Well, there's still something playing with me.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you, Jack.
Nope.
Okay, Jack, can you turn that off? There you go. So, Carsie, like, I heard you breaking down that it actually costs you money to put, like, the how capitalism works. So I want you to explain that a little bit so that
Sure.
people can understand what you're up against.
Sure. I wrote a piece about it. If you want to hear it in real detail, you can Google Carsie Blanton, The Nation. I wrote a piece for The Nation about a year ago about this. But yeah, I have been a professional musician for 15 years. I've been independent the whole time, so there's no record label. And I have accrued $200,000 of debt doing that. And it's from both touring and making records. Those are both lost. They both lose money. They both don't make money so far in my life. But I'll say, like, I'm about to go on tour now, and I'm playing the venues that I always dreamed of playing, the venues I was opening in like 10 years ago. And now I'm headlining, and some of them are selling out, and it's like success. But I swear to you, this tour is not about to break even. I think I'm going to spend a little money on this tour too. It's just the economics of the business. It's so incredibly expensive to get everywhere. And I pay my band really well. That's one of my values, but that's not actually the reason. The reason is, like, the cost of flights and gas and car rentals and everything keeps going up, and the cost of tickets does not. And it's the same for venues. Like, venues are really, a lot of venues are folding, and it's not just because of COVID. It's like the model has kind of collapsed in recent years. And I think when there was more money floating around in the industry, like from CD sales, then they could be subsidized. Like, tours were subsidized by record labels and stuff like that. And now there's just, it's like the streaming money's so low, the touring money's so low. It's like, where's the money supposed to come from? But to end on a happier note, I do a lot of crowdfunding, and I have a Patreon, and that is the model that I use. So I can keep doing this for my whole life. I can go deeper in debt. I'm over it. I don't care anymore.
Well, we're putting their Patreon, carsieblanton.com. Go to that website. Again, Ruthie, I got to give Ruthie credit because she's the one who signed us up, but
All
we're
right.
a household. So we're,
Thank you.
We're Patreon subscribers to Carsie Blanton. And you also will get an opportunity. She does all sorts of virtual shows. You get an opportunity. She chats it up with her Patreon subscribers. So you've really figured out how to sort of personalize the experience, Carsie. And I've, like, really, again, I'm fanboying a little bit, but and I don't know if you know this about me, but I used to actually promote and produce rock shows. Like,
did you really? So
I did.
You know how it is.
Way back, like, and look, for every one of these that I'm about to name, there were 100 that I don't even remember them, but I did, like, literally probably the biggest thing in a small little 900 seat arena in Houston, Texas, a little band you might have heard of called The Cure.
The Cure for 900 people? That's awesome.
900, like a venue that held 900 people. And
nice.
Living Color and the Dead Kennedys and
nice.
like a long list of folks, right? But one of the things that I realized is, the way that system was working was because at that time, record labels would say, all right, if you want it, when we tour the Stones or, Tom Petty or whatever, we've got all these 20 or 30 other labels that you've got to put on. And so, the big, like the big stadium shows, like they didn't know what to do. Right. But we had a little niche market to say, well, all right, we'll take this show and we'll flyer it. And like, there was a way where you could make it work. Right.
Yeah.
But what I've realized is with the collapse of the traditional record label kind of approach, it actually ended up screwing most artists in the process. So there was nothing to celebrate there.
We're just being screwed differently now, really. It's like it used to be that there would be like a major corporation deciding how your career went. And I think some people did well with that and some people didn't. Some people got screwed over by their record labels. And now there's very few, there's like 2 labels left essentially that have any money. And then everybody else is just like me. Like even the small labels are basically doing what I do, which is running all the different parts of the business in one house. So yeah, it's like it's like a lot of parts of the economy, a lot of different industries. The way that the internet has worked and made all content free means that your content can reach more people, but there isn't any money attached to it. So if you don't mind being broke or in debt for your whole life, you can still reach a lot of people with your songs. And I've made peace with it, but it also means that like the tech companies write the algorithms and essentially the algorithms decide what gets popular now. It's up to them. It's not really up to any humans anymore.
I mean, which is actually something that we have to come to terms with, because I'm going to circle back and try to actually do a little, old style political education. And that is the reason that fascism is rising, right?
Yeah.
Actually is connected to what you just said, because look at here. Fascism rose, like fascism is not just totalitarian cops and, racism. Fascism is a political economic ideology, how to organize the world. Fascism rose as a political economy and a social movement in the 1930s broadly because the entire political economy was being restructured globally. Yeah. It was moving from an agrarian society to an industrial one. Yeah. And in that chaos, and in that, oh my God, where's my place in the world? Fascists, for all their horror, have an ideology about what to do about that. Yeah. And what to do about it for a fascist is there is an us and a them. There is a nationalism associated with it. And in this country, it's always white supremacy, but there are black and brown skin nationalists right now in Portugal, in Africa, in India. So it's not about pigment. It's about ideology of otherization, right? Yeah. And it arises as a actual political force in moments of great chaos or conjuncture, what Gramsci calls a conjuncture. Yeah. And here's the thing, y'all. Fascism is rising now globally, not just in the US, because the society is being restructured. It's moving not just from industrial to financialization, but something even deeper. And that is capitalism exists by allowing the capitalist and the predatory class to extract the surplus value of the labor of the worker. That's literally how it works. And now with automation, technology, robotics, and now artificial intelligence and what you're describing, Carsie, in the music industry, it's happening everywhere. Yeah. And so people don't know what to do and where to go. And this is the thing, the neoliberal center as represented by the Democratic Party, it's collapsing. Yeah, it really is. That cannot work. Yeah. And so it's either going to be some version of eco-socialism or some version of fascism. Fascism. That's all we really have to look forward to. And that is why I'm a socialist. I'm like, guys, the options are not business as usual or socialism. The options are socialism or fascism. You got to pick one. And I think the other thing that I find kind of interesting in thinking about that, very well said, by the way, is that in the transition from agrarian to industrial economies, you're getting a different labor relation. So they need a different kind of set of workers to do a different kind of set of jobs. And it's happening again now. What's sort of interesting to me about the technological change that we're having now is that this would be a great time to implement socialism, because what we need now is way less people. We need way less workers to do the same amount of work. And that should mean, yay, everybody gets 3 days a week off or 4 days a week off. Like, just go home. We don't need you anymore. AI should be like, awesome, now you guys don't have to work as much. But of course, in capitalism, you're just simply not allowed to have people living without working. So you have to restructure the whole society to make up a whole bunch of jobs for all these people, and also half of them are going to be unemployed and everyone's going to be miserable. And literally, like, we have such amazing technology and resources and like abundance in the entire world now.
all we have is a distribution problem. Like we need to distribute our labor differently and our time differently and our resources differently. And everyone could live quite comfortably right now. Like we don't have to, it's not space age stuff we're talking about.
So I got to tell you, thank you for that, Carsie. And like you, we should be celebrating this, right? Like if we actually democratized knowledge, if we democratized power, if we actually had a functioning democracy, what we would be having is a way to do the regenerative economic development that we need to repair the damage that we've done to Mother Earth herself, but also to take care of each other, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is the thing, like really and truly, y'all, capitalism is an insane way to organize a society. And again, it's not like organized labor today are not as like, it's not that they're lazy or they're not creative. It's like all of the old ways of extracting concessions from the predatory class, they're not working anymore because the systems are changing.
Yeah.
And Carsie, I was always one to say, stop saying the revolution is coming. Like that's like we have to have clarity about the words that we're using.
Yeah.
And here's my point. And that is, like, we are at a conjuncture, the likes of which the earth has never seen, right?
Yeah.
It's a global ecological collapse. It's not coming, it's here and getting worse.
Yep.
Capitalism can't solve it.
No.
Capitalism is the problem, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to have a new society.
Yeah.
And I want to lift up Z-Manny, who is a frequent contributor here on Redneck Gone Green, who says, if we imagine the ideology of the German shepherds in a concentration camp, the point of view of the impulse-driven attack dogs blindly adapting their masters, that's how I see fascism versus capitalism. And I think that that's this is what we've got to do, y'all. We've got to figure out how to break it down without dumbing it down.
Yeah.
How to talk honestly about the interconnection between white supremacy and capitalism and heteropatriarchy and settler colonialism. And say,
well, sorry to interrupt you, but just got excited about something you said and that comment. I was thinking recently, and I can't remember what I was reading, but there's something that fascism and capitalism have in common. And it's actually a first premise. It's a very deep shared value, which is that some people deserve to live and some people don't. And so I think that's one reason that a lot of people, especially in America, which is like the heart of super capitalism, we do it the best and the most, and we deserve it, whatever. So in America, it's like, it's very easy to change from, hey, I think the free market's great, to, hey, I think the Jews shouldn't be allowed to live anymore, or the blacks, or whoever it is, whatever they're saying now, I don't even know. Or like immigrants, right? Because they share a principle, which is these people over here now, they should have food and shelter. These ones don't deserve it because they're drug addicts, or they're homeless, or they're crazy, or they're lazy. Or if you're a fascist, because they're this race that I don't like, right? But it's pretty easy to get from one to the other. And my ideology and the socialist ideology and everybody on the left is, actually, everybody who's born deserves to live. Let's just go ahead and say that as a first premise. Okay, what if everyone who's born deserves to live? Then what? If you use that as a first premise, you very quickly get to socialism, because there's really only one way to do it. And it is that everybody has to help everybody and everybody has to share. It's like a kindergarten ideology, really. And it's
really
still a good one.
And I want to lift up Bill, because we like to actually bring in different ideas. I mean, Bill writes in to say, while I understand your point of view, like most of your speaking of the duopoly of socialism against capitalism that we're conned into, we need to look outside this box they are holding us in. This is about a spectrum, not just two choices. And that reminds me of how you were talking about your own trajectory, right? And one of the things that I do, Carsie, is I'm always asking myself, like when I'm in conversation with folks, in those pool halls, bowling alleys, in a Uber or a Lyft or wherever I'm in conversation, I try to size people up and say, is this somebody that is genuinely in a discourse with me, right? Mm-hmm. And if so, I spend a lot of time really patiently, like trying to win them over, right? Because I do believe that like we have to win people over, right? And again, like humor, but also like a little empathy, right? Like really compassion, like really listening to people. And like I've found that most folk actually love their children.
Yeah.
Most folk like people are not actually like signing up for, oh, I'm on the side of death and destruction.
Right.
Like I'm on the side of oppression. Like that's not how people see themselves.
Yeah.
So, but I'll tell you another thing. I used to always say, and I think you'll appreciate, I have no enemy but my class enemy.
Yeah.
But now I have to come to terms, Carsie. Members of my class are actually breaking fascist.
Yeah.
And I do believe that those people are my enemy. Now, others can try to win them over, but I got lower hanging fruit, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't actually, so I do assess people. And if they're like one of your recent songs, right? That like you're trying to win folk over, I don't fool with them. So I'm going to give you an opportunity if you want to talk about that song, because I know you know what I'm talking about.
You're talking about Ugly Nasty Call Me Bitch, or are you talking
That's
about Rich
the one.
People? Okay. Yeah, I don't know, is that one queued up? We can show it if you want, up to you, but I could just talk about it too.
Yeah, talk about it, and I'll ask Jack to cue it up so
Sure.
that people, because I don't know if we've got it queued up right away. I just was inspired.
Yeah, so I as a woman on the internet making political statements, you'll be surprised to learn I get quite a lot of trolls. So like a very big part of my life has become just trying, not even moderating anymore. I gave up on that, but just like ambiently seeing a lot of like very upsetting conspiracy theories and violence towards me and accusations and all this really nasty stuff. And I wrote this little song as a sort of response to the trolls. But the idea behind the song is to say, like, yes, that's right. I'm the boogeyman. I'm your worst nightmare. I take a bath in the blood of the rich, right? All that kind of stuff. Like, I'm everything you thought of that's so horrible. But also, like, who are you? Are you my worst nightmare? Are you all these terrible stereotypes? And then it comes around to be like, actually, no, we're in this together, and our only enemy is our class enemy, like you were saying. So it's a 1-minute song. I tried to make it a class solidarity song. I don't think it worked, but I'm always working on it.
No, I mean, it was really interesting. So I can tell you this, a more accessible, perhaps, version is also one of your jazziest numbers. So
yeah.
and I know you know which one we're about to play. So Jack, you want to hit this one? I want to give people a taste of Carsie.
All right.
Seem like bad news all the time. We got blood and fires and wars and crime. They try to tell me who I ought to blame, but I know who it is, 'cause it's always the same. But don't be ashamed if you get confused when you talk to your friends or you watch the news. They try to tell you where it all went wrong. Now you don't need to argue, just sing this song. It was rich people stacking the deck, rich people with big fat checks, rich people, they're having a ball, rich people been fucking us all.
And I will say, I heard you do that song, and the crowd did go wild.
Yeah.
And they were laughing, but also, I mean,
Crying.
They were crying, right? You were doing some political education and also stoking some of that really tasty class resentment.
Yeah.
And because one of the things, and I want to be clear, y'all, when I talk about class, I'll just speak for myself, and Carsie can react, but I don't mean merely socioeconomics. I'm talking about who fucking owns the means of production. What is the classification of people who were actually making the rules and deciding how to organize society?
What I like to say when I play that song is, if you're not rich enough to buy an election, this song's not about you.
That's right. You do say, yeah, I heard you do that twice now.
Yeah. Just to clarify, because you always get a couple people in the front row wearing nice clothes who look real nervous. And you're like, no, I don't mean you have a vacation home or like you drive a Bentley or whatever. I mean, like, you're deciding what the rest of us have to deal with.
Right. You know, it's really interesting, Carsie, because I do feel like having honest conversation with each other like this, part of what I'm trying to do with Redneck Gone Green is actually to say to folk, we're not alone. Actually, there are way more of us than we realize.
Yeah.
But and I do feel like the idea of social media, if like honestly, if the algorithms weren't being used to separate us, like there's actually a lot of us who believe the way we believe, right? And we might. It's anyway. I'm just saying. I think that there is something to this idea of having honest conversation with one another about what is happening, and then again, what is to be done.
Yeah.
And I do want to give you a chance to talk a little bit about your work organizing artists in a revolutionary context, because I'm really excited to learn about that.
Yeah. Well, I can't say that much about it specifically yet because I'm working on a really exciting project that is not announced yet. So stay tuned. But I am really interested in the idea of like artists are, in a way, they're the ones creating the culture. So obviously a lot of our culture gets created by advertising firms and like politicians and speechwriters and stuff, but a lot of it gets created by people, working class people who identify as artists and some who don't, right? Especially in like the age of TikTok, there's a lot of people creating culture right now. So I'm really interested in having a collective, organized group of those people where, like you're saying, we can do some discourse together, figure out where we stand as a block on political issues, and like, make art that helps people understand the kinds of things we're talking about, helps people understand their class position, helps people understand Israel and Palestine. It's like we're up against like the biggest propaganda machine in the history of the world, and that is the American political and media behemoth. And they're extremely powerful, but they don't win every time. And the reason they don't is because the rest of us are out here making culture too. So I'm really interested in that political concept, like not just doing elections and doing on the ground work, but also just getting the people who make the culture together. So I'm working on that.
Fantastic. Well, as you know, I was able to bring you into the Decolonizing Economics Summit, and Ruthie, my partner, who turned me on to you, did a panel on art, culture, and revolution. And I love to bring you back, and maybe by then there may be something more to talk about.
Absolutely. I'd love that as well.
I'll say it again, y'all. There has never been a movement that art and culture and various mediums, like that's how you know it's a movement, right? Yeah. It's not like ideas have got to actually, people have to feel them and then express them through different artistic mediums. That's how you actually know that it's working, right?
You got to make it fun. It's got to be fun.
You got to make it fun. You got to make it fun. And again, make it beautiful, make it sexy. Yeah. Like these are good things. Like
100%.
So listen, Carsie, this hour has absolutely just flown by.
It has.
I do want to give you an opportunity for any last thoughts. And I'm going to say, folks, stick around because I've made reference of Fishing with You a couple of times. We're going to close out with a song that made me cry and still does when I hear it. But I'm going to give Carsie a chance to say a few final words.
Sure. I guess I have two plugs. One is if you're an artist and you got excited by the thing I was just talking about, like what if there's a collective of artists who talk about politics? Go ahead and email me for now, Carsie@carsieblanton.com. I'll put you on the list for letting you know when that project is launched. And the other thing is I'm just about to leave on Thursday. I'm leaving for a tour of Colorado and the West Coast. So if you're in any of those cities, major cities in Colorado or the West Coast, come see our show. Except if you're in Portland, because it's sold out. Sorry.
Oh, look at you.
I think that does it for me. Thank you.
All right. So listen, y'all, I want to thank you again for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. And the last thing that I'm going to let you know, two things. One, next week, we'll be joined by Reverend Billy of the School of Stop Shopping, or the Church of Stop Shopping. Talk about somebody who uses political theater and makes shit fun. Y'all are going to love Reverend Billy. And I'll close it out and ask Jackrabbit to take us out with Fishing with You. Jack, we're not hearing nothing.
tunes, they were sweet as peaches. Crazy as loons, always telling us how to be good to each other. You smart ass, smiling, aimless lover, but it's rough down here since we got the news. Might take a miracle to cure these blues. Everybody been crying like a little girl in the whole wide, big old goofy world. Tonight in heaven is a happier place. They were all sick of singing Amazing Grace, and that was fish and whistle, lean on me. Everybody singing in harmony. Tonight in heaven it must be nice. They're all eating peaches in paradise, and all of them angels lining up in a queue just to go fishing with you, just to go fishing with you. Hey John Prine, just one more thing. You're the one who made us all wanna sing. You made it look so easy and look so fun. We'll sing a little sweeter now that you're all done. Please tell Petty we've been breaking down since Merle and Bowie and Leonard and Prince. You got a pretty good band up there, I guess. We all wish you all the best. Tonight heaven is a happier place. They were all sick of singing Amazing Grace, and now it's fish and whistle, lean on me. Everybody singing in harmony. Tonight in heaven it must be nice. They're all eating peaches in paradise. All of them angels lining up in a queue just to go fishing with you, just to go fishing with you, just to go fishing with Jesus and Petty and you.